Hey there, Fight here with two posts I found on Facebook today, and I thought they're worth not sharing but commenting on. Well, sharing slash commenting on. So the first one is by Kevin Rogers, who gives a great little answer on how to answer the question how much. So if you're a consultant or a freelancer and someone asks you, well, how much do you charge? His advice is, well, you turn this question around and you say, well, let's not talk about price. Let's talk about your bigger picture problem. What is it you're trying to do? What is the actual value? So the big trick here is to present what you've got as value in the sense of, expressed in the terms of what is valuable to that particular company. And although it is great advice, and as you can see from the comments, it's greatly appreciated by many people, I was once there in exactly the same position. So I did a lot of sales, proper hardcore sales. Okay, we sold actually various things. I sold insurance, and I also sold advertising space to local businesses, plus of course my own consulting services to local businesses. And initially, especially when I got started selling insurance, we were drilled on these types of reframing techniques. Like, wow, here you go, and you turn it around, and then suddenly it's all about you being the expert as opposed to a salesperson or vendor. And the big problem most people make, and I was there, I've done it, every single other person who got started in insurance sales, they made the same mistake. They saw this as a trick. It's like, here is how you magically turn the conversation around to you being the expert, and as we all know, experts charge more, which is brilliant. The real growth as an expert, the real growth as a consultant and whatever it is you're selling, service provider, coach, freelancer, comes when you truly understand what this question is about. Truly figuring out the diagnosing what is going on in their person's business, so you can then possibly help them. Not necessarily. It is all about truly figuring out what specific problem they're having. Quite often they are stuck in their business and they basically lost the oversight, and this is where you bring in your value, where you bring the outside view and perspective to help them to recommend a path for getting out of wherever they're stuck to where they want to go to. And that is the true value, and that is the true purpose of those questions. So please, whenever you go out and you see this type of advice, which is solid, no doubt about it, and it does work in practice, but it works so much better when you go beyond, oh, this is a great reframing trick, when you actually go to what is the underlying thing I'm trying to achieve, namely truly figuring out what it is people want. Alrighty, so there's number one. And number two is a little bit further down, and this is for anyone who's into launching. By the way, I friggin' hate it. Facebook goes through these phases where they autoplay videos left, right, and center. It's just like absolutely ridiculous. At the moment, we're high noon, and we must see lots of videos in motion. So this is by Ron Douglas, who launched a product not so long ago about $5 posts, how to do something on Facebook. All right, so here is basically a little, thought-provoking post on product launches. And he's saying basically, how many six-figure months, how many individual six-figure launches do you need to do to have $1 million in the bank? And he goes, well, actually, look, when you do a launch that does 100K, about 55K will go to affiliates and fees, which is totally true. It is at least 55K. It's more like 60K. Once you've gone PayPal fees, the payment or the processing, quite often, like for example JV, Zoo or ClickBank or whatever, they take another 5%, and before you know it, you are left with 40K. So this is actually a very generous 55K. It's more like 60K goes to affiliates and fees, another 10K to expenses easily. Especially when you have a JV manager, that kind of thing. For 100K launch, you're looking typically at staff in the form of people helping you with copywriting, with JV management, etc., JV prizes, and so on. And then, of course, you've got 35K left. 35% goes to taxes and brings you down to a generous 23K. It's more like 20K in my experience. Then you've got some living expenses. So, meaning you've got a very piddly small number. Well, a lot of people don't view 15K as piddly, but out of six figures, out of 100,000, where you think, man, awesome, I've got all that turnover, it's actually not that much left over. So the big thing people tell you is like, oh yeah, you do info products and then you launch them and you are going to be a gazillionaire, because the overall cost of delivering an info product is of course zero. It's a little bit of bandwidth on S3, so it costs you nothing. So you get to keep most of it. The reality is no. At least when you are choosing a launch model where you rely on affiliates for driving traffic. That is the key thing here, right? Ron's post is focused on the one idea that you're launching products typically made for launch, as in they will be launched and then that's the end of that. A lot of launches are based on the idea that at the end of the launch there is a massive scarcity play, in the sense of the price goes up to such high numbers that no one's going to buy afterwards. So they're all eager to buy right there and then. So this post is kind of based on the idea that you spend a month launching a product and then that's it. You don't do anything more with it. And the second assumption is it's all based on affiliates driving the traffic, and that's why you give at least 55k to affiliates. However, the fundamental reasoning is quite solid. So you're left over with 15k, 10 to 15k. So it'll take you quite a while, actually 5.5 years, to be a cash millionaire. All right. So how off is your math? And then other people chime in. That's all very well. So I've been saying this for a long, long time. Launches suck. And they suck not because you make 15k for a month's work. Well, that's quite reasonable, but because they're actually high stress, and at least the way they're taught, the way they're presented, and the focus of launches, or the focus on launch as a business model, is wrong, because you're no longer focusing on what really matters, namely delivering increased and continued value to your subscribers, to your customers, in the sense of building out a backend, figuring out what else they're struggling with, and then helping them with that. Because what is expensive is acquiring a new customer. The first time you get a customer, you have to give away lots of money in terms of JV prizes and affiliate fees, etc., etc. It's much better to focus your business, and Ken kind of says that those numbers are different when you focus on when you have a good backend in place. Again, I don't see good backend in place as the magic bullet. This should really be framed in a different way, in my opinion. It should be framed as in when you start building a proper business on top of launches. So there you go. It's a nice, thought-provoking and very close to reality post by Ron that says if you go and do launches one after the other, and even if you do six-figure launches, it'll take you a very long time to get to cash millionaire status. And the take-home message really should be, go and focus on something else, namely building a proper business. Figure out, what is the one problem a large enough population on this planet struggles with, so you can go and solve it for them, and then build a proper business, so you don't have that repeating high cost of acquiring new customers, the repeated stress of launches, etc., etc., etc. Alrighty. Any questions, comments, concerns? Just leave a comment down below. Cheers. Bye.